In this week's episode of A Dryer Dose of Disney, Jared shares with us his SeaWorld Orlando advice.
Welcome to this week's episode of A Dryer Dose of Disney. I'm your host, Jared Dryer, and today we are going to start the first of a three-part series where we're going to be talking about some of the lesser attended parks, both in Orlando and in California. Starting out today with SeaWorld Orlando, which I had the privilege of going to about a week ago and had a really great time. Now, we will talk more about SeaWorld and Legoland on future episodes, but I did used to live in San Diego when I went to college there and was at SeaWorld a lot. So I do have a lot of experience with the SeaWorld parks. I do absolutely love them, and we're going to get into detail on the two most popular ones, Orlando and San Diego, on our next couple episodes. And then we're going to follow it up, like I was just saying, with Legoland, and we're going to be talking about what you can expect at Legoland and what kind of cool things they do there. So a lot of fun coming over these next few episodes, and we're going to be diving deep, like I said, into some of these less attended parks out there so that parents get an idea of what their kids can expect and where the bang for the buck is. But starting out today, we do want to talk about SeaWorld Orlando. But before we do, I do want to ask, wherever you're listening to this podcast, go find that subscribe button and click subscribe. That way you can get this content delivered into your inbox each and every single week. In addition to, if you find any tips or tricks that have saved you time or money, we do appreciate support over at Patreon. You can find that in the link in the description down below. So go find us over at Patreon and support us there, because a couple bucks goes a long way to keeping this podcast going for you. So again, we really do appreciate our subscribers there. Now, before I dive in, I do want to say I'm here at the Dryer Dose of Disney condo here in Orlando. If you're watching us on the video format, I've been looking for different places to host the video within our condo here. And today I wanted to do it in front of our new picture that we just put up here, which is called Dream It, Do It. And it is a great picture by Greg McCullough. And we actually have a couple of his here in the condo. We've got this one. We've got partners up in our second guest room. And then in our kids' room, we have a new Goofy one on Main Street, which are both charcoal sketches. And those are amazing. But the really cool thing about Greg's painting behind us on Dream It, Do It is there are, if you can read that plaque, there are 52 hidden Disney characters in that picture. And there are an additional 30 hidden Mickeys. And they are really hard to find, but they're really cool when you do find them. They are everywhere throughout that painting up there. So I do encourage you, if you think that's a cool looking painting, go online, check it out. You can find it over at Art of Disney down here at Disney Springs. And then Greg is over at the Epcot Arts Festival every single year. And that's where we actually found this one earlier this year in January, late January. We went to the Arts Festival and picked this out and had it shipped to our home in Denver, and then brought it back with us so that we could hang it up here in our condo in Orlando. Again, we do rent out this condo. If you'd like a chance to rent it out, you can find that also in the description below. And we've opened up the calendar for the remaining of 2023 and going into 2024. So now is a great time if you want to get this booked. So with that, though, let's dive into SeaWorld Orlando. And I'm wearing a special shirt today. This is not from the same company as the others. This is actually one that I found over in Clearwater Beach right before we went to SeaWorld, and it's covered in sharks. And if you don't know a lot about me, I absolutely love sharks. In fact, when I went to college, that's what I wanted to study, was sharks. And I did a lot of research over at SeaWorld and at Birch Aquarium in La Jolla. And they just absolutely fascinate me. In fact, I've done scuba dives and snorkeling with almost every shark species out there, including great whites. I did a dive out in San Francisco at the Fowler Islands, and it was a lot of fun. So I absolutely love sharks. So when I saw this shirt and it was covered in sharks, I absolutely had to get it. And then I wore it to SeaWorld over a week ago when we went there with some family, and it was great. I absolutely loved it, and it was fun having sharks on my shirt. So did want to call that out today. So SeaWorld is, when you're thinking of parks in Orlando, it is probably the seventh park you're going to be thinking of, meaning there are 4 Disney parks, and everybody's thinking about those first and foremost. And then with Universal, you've got 2 parks with a third one coming, with the new Epic Universe park coming, with the new Nintendo Land and the How to Train Your Dragon Land and some of the really cool things. But SeaWorld is here, and SeaWorld is that park that today people usually think of about 7th in their lineup. And for most people, they don't have that amount of time to come to Orlando where they can just do parks straight for more than a week and knock out everything, including Legoland, SeaWorld, and all the other really cool, fascinating things that are around Orlando. So I do want to call out, though, SeaWorld is definitely a park you're going to want to visit if you have the time and the budget to do so. In my other episodes, we've talked about the Universal parks, so Islands of Adventure and Universal Studios can actually be combined into one day, especially if you do a park-to-park pass and you're able to ride the Hogwarts Express between them. That's a lot of fun, but we were just at Universal yesterday, and again, we just knocked it out. Both parks in one day is real easy for us to do. It's totally doable to do multiple parks in the same day out here, but you don't want to miss SeaWorld. And the reason is though this was my first time going to SeaWorld in Orlando, they had some of the best roller coasters I've ever ridden. So if you are big into roller coasters or your family loves those thrill rides, don't skip SeaWorld because they have some of the best ones in Orlando. Now, I would compare them to what you're going to find at Islands of Adventure, which is the Hulk roller coaster, the Velocicoaster. They've got a handful of them at SeaWorld, and we're going to talk about them here in just a second, but they are fantastic. So I absolutely loved them. I had a great time. My daughter and I had a chance to ride the roller coasters at SeaWorld, and we had some other family there with us. And I honestly was floored with how extreme some of these roller coasters were. They were fantastic. They were a lot of fun. But SeaWorld Orlando has some of the best roller coasters I've ever ridden. And these are your big, huge mega coasters here at SeaWorld in Orlando. So they've really started gearing their parks towards the thrill rides. They are owned by the same company that has Busch Gardens down in Tampa, which traditionally has been a big roller coaster park as well. So keep that in mind, that the mindset of this company is to put big, huge thrill rides in their parks amongst the animals and amongst some of the other exhibits that they have. So that way you get a chance to experience the thrill rides in addition to seeing the cool animals and stuff like that. Now, at SeaWorld Orlando, because it was built more recently, it's got a lot more of the coasters. They've definitely got that mindset out here. Now, San Diego, we'll talk about on our next episode, obviously started as an animal park and then has since changed gears. And we'll talk about that when we go over the San Diego episode. But here in Orlando, they've got some mega coasters. So let's go through and let's talk about each one really quick. Right out of the gates, the most popular one, the biggest one is Manta. Manta is, in a sense, a flying coaster. You do get into it as a normal hang-down coaster where you're sitting with your feet dangling. There are restraints around your legs. And then it flips forward so that you're almost in a flying position. Now, you're not in a Superman position where your body is laying down flat straight. You're in a seated position where your legs and your chest are restrained and it flips you forward so you're hanging down, but like you're flying. From there, it goes up a huge hill and it drops. And at one point, it does an inverted drop roll, which is really intense. There's a lot of G's in that. I'll be honest, I didn't feel great getting off the coaster, but within a few minutes, I was able to recover pretty quickly. But it's probably one of the most unique and intense coasters I've ever been on. The entire family that rode it, they were all raving all day about how crazy that coaster was. And this is by far the most popular ride. So I'm not going to do a separate episode on rope drop strategies for SeaWorld Orlando, but I will tell you here and now today, the first thing you want to do if you're into coasters is you want to go ride Manta. That's going to have the longest lines the remainder of the day. So get that one knocked out. When we got up there, we were on the second car. It only took us literally 5 minutes and we were able to get on that ride. And then we didn't have to worry about it the rest of the day. Not too far away from that is Kraken. Kraken is more of your traditional coaster. It's very similar to the Hulk roller coaster over at Universal. It's got lots of inversions, lots of corkscrews, lots of things that are going to flip you around and turn you sideways. And that one is also a great coaster. That one goes up. It's, I believe, like 140, 150 feet. That one was a lot of fun. But Kraken is going to definitely scramble you pretty good. So be warned for that. It is different than Manta. Manta, like I said, pulls some serious G's in that inverted dive. Like I said, Kraken's just going to be upside down corkscrew, upside down, twisting you sideways. So it's definitely a different experience over there. The next one is the one that I was the most afraid of riding just because I'm afraid of heights, and that is Mako. This is a 200-foot roller coaster, and you're in a traditional seat. Now, when we got to Mako, they had it closed for a portion of the day, and when we were standing there, they opened it. So we went through, we were the first in line. We were able to get front row seats. So there were 4 of us in our party and we had the front seats, and it's crazy to be in the front because your feet are dangling. And when you get up to the top over 200 feet up, the front of the car obviously goes over and starts down the hill before it takes off. So we were suspended there in the air for a while, but then from there, it's just up and down over and over again. But Mako, man, that thing is really high, but that one was a lot of fun. And that coaster went really fast when it got moving down the hill. Definitely want to try that out. Their newest coaster is called Pipeline. And this is a stand-up coaster. Now, I've ridden stand-up coasters. I've been to Cedar Point in Sandusky, Ohio. I believe it's the Mantis out there. At least it was in the 90s when I was there. That was a great standing coaster. And then at Six Flags Magic Mountain, they've got one there. And I've ridden one at most of the Six Flags across the US that I've been to. Absolutely love standing coasters. And the reason I like them is it gives a totally different experience. And for me, I don't know why, but I don't feel as afraid in a stand-up coaster as I do when I'm stuck sitting down. Granted, you're just as restrained, but the fact that my legs are underneath me somehow makes me feel a little bit better. So the new one called Pipeline is very cool. It doesn't go up super high. It does more of turns and twists around the park. It is a lower level coaster, but that one was a lot of fun. So I definitely encourage you guys to check that one out. When you're thinking about Rope Drop, Pipeline being their newest one, a lot of people ran to Pipeline, but we found that we went to, like I said, Manta first. That was the one I would definitely recommend knocking out. Within a couple hours, Pipeline was down to the 15, 20-minute wait max. So keep that in mind. You can get a short wait there throughout the day. You do not have to rope drop it. Next is Icebreaker. And Icebreaker is one of these roller coasters that starts by taking you back. It drops you forward. You don't quite get up the hill. You go back again, and then it accelerates. You get up, and you do a couple corkscrews at the top and come back down. So this one's a very short roller coaster. It's not as intense as the other ones. So this is one that I would hold off to later in the day. I would definitely knock out Manta, Kraken, Mako, and then probably Pipeline before I get to Icebreaker. But Icebreaker was fun. It is out of the way. It's over by the Killer Whale Stadium. Know that it's off to the side of the park. Now, this park layout is strange. They do have a large lagoon right in the middle, and they have the Killer Whale show off to the east. And this is as you're looking at the park map, it's on the east side of the map. I'm not sure if that's actual east, but it's off to the right-hand side. And then the majority of the park is over on the west side, on the left-hand side of the map. So Icebreaker is a little bit secluded from the other parts of the park. So it is a little bit out of the way to get over there. But that one's awesome. And then they have one, I don't know if I'd call it a roller coaster. I guess you should, because it does actually go on a track at some point. And that is Journey to Atlantis. And this is a ride they also have in San Diego. But basically, it is a boat ride combined with a roller coaster. So there's a lift, you're going to go up to the top, you're going to come down, you're going to splash, get all wet. But then there comes a point when you are actually on a roller coaster track as it's running through the rest of the ride. So that one's also fun, but you will get wet on Journey to Atlantis. Some other really cool call outs that you want to know about SeaWorld Orlando is they also have Sesame Street Land. Now, granted, I'm in my mid 40s and I'm not into Sesame Street, but I can tell you, had I been a kid, and had I been in that 5 to 7 range or so, maybe even younger, I would have absolutely loved to go to Sesame Street Land. And they did a really good job. We did walk through it over at Orlando here at the SeaWorld, and it was awesome. They had the trash can for Oscar the Grouch. They have Abby Cadabby out there. They've got Elmo. They've got all kinds of cool things like that. So it was very popular. It was very busy. There are tons of little kid rides there. Do know that your kids are going to have an opportunity to do some cool rides while they're there, but it is definitely geared towards the little kids. So Sesame Street Land there is really cool. Now, the reason though that people like to go to SeaWorld is for these shows. And the shows were awesome. They had 3 great shows. They have some downside to them, and that's really post Blackfish. So if you've not seen the documentary Blackfish, it is about killer whales in captivity, and it really killed the industry to the point that now the SeaWorld parks are not doing such a big, robust show with the killer whales. They're doing more of an educational thing, and they're trying to keep them short. And that's the downside, is these shows lasted about 15 minutes for the most part. A couple maybe went a few minutes longer to 20. But they're very short shows. They're very quick. They're just one and done. They just give you some educational pointers and some tips about the animals. They do a couple tricks where the animals jump in the air, or maybe they splash the crowd, but that's it. Then they're off from the stage and they move on with life. The 3 shows that they have there are the Dolphin Show. That one was a lot of fun. They do have some covered seating about halfway up. In Orlando, I do recommend that. You're going to want to be under cover and in the shade because it does get so hot there. But that was a good little show. Like I said, that one was really short. Then they have the Sea Lion and Otter Show. That one's a lot of fun. This one is actually almost identical to the show out in San Diego. We've seen that one so many times. It is more comedy based. It's honestly, out of all of them, it's probably the most entertaining show. And that one, like I said, a lot of gags, a lot of jokes. It's a lot of fun. They also bring out multiple animals, including a secret one at the very end I'm not going to tell you about, that most of you probably haven't seen in a show. So that one's really cool. And then obviously the Killer Whale Show is their highlight over there. With the Killer Whale Show, they do it more as an educational experience. They talk to you about killer whales, how they function in their playtime and how they work out at the parks. And it's just really cool to see killer whales in captivity. So that's something that outside of SeaWorld, you're not really going to get. You can see dolphins almost anywhere in the world. Sea lions and otters, you can see at different aquariums throughout the world, or you can see them in nature if you're out in a city like San Francisco or out on the West Coast somewhere. But killer whales are something you're not going to see unless you're on a cruise, you're out in Alaska, or you're going to SeaWorld. So that was a lot of fun to see the large killer whales. And for our family that was there, they were from the Midwest. And for them, that was a very unique experience for them to see those animals there at the SeaWorld park. So those were all a lot of fun. As for the food, granted, SeaWorld, just like all the other parks, does a great job. I will give you a recommendation, and that is they do the refillable bottles there, which means you can pay about $15. You can get this refillable cup that you can use then throughout your day and refill it as often as you want at any of the stations. That is something that we like to do if we know we're going to be there all day, just because we will drink a lot of water or drink a lot of soda. And that way we get one cup between the three of us, and you can refill them like every 15 minutes. And we will fill up on that throughout the day. So I do recommend getting those. If you've listened to my other episodes, I love barbecue, and they had a barbecue place. What I was impressed with SeaWorld is when you look at their dining options and their menus, they have every type of cuisine. So they've got Chinese food, they've got barbecue, like we said, they've got Mexican, they've got Italian. All their different restaurants have a different type of cuisine. So if there's something you're in the mood for, I encourage you, go onto their app, check out the dining options, and look at the menus, because you'll find really quick what kind of cuisine is at which restaurants, and then go to the one you want. So they had a lot of different options, which was really cool. And that really made it really convenient for us over at SeaWorld, which was really cool. Now, the animals to me are the highlight of the park, and that's aside from the coasters. And that's just because I love sea life. And like I said, that's what I studied in college. So throughout the park, they had a great Arctic exhibit where you get to see beluga whales. Those are really rare. I know out in San Diego, sometimes they bring out an Arctic fox every once in a while into that exhibit, but they had the belugas. They've got a polar exhibit on the other side of the park where they actually have penguins. And that was really cool. The room is totally freezing, but it was a good break to get out of the heat and to go into this really cold room where the penguins are up close right next to you. They have their shark exhibit where you walk through the tube and you get to see all kinds of sharks. That was a lot of fun, but they had great animal exhibits throughout the park. So I encourage you, don't just go to the park for the shows and for the rides. You want to go check out the exhibits as well. Check out the aquariums, because that is important to SeaWorld and to SeaWorld Rescue, and to really growing that brand, is to check out these aquariums and all the cool items they have in them. And I really want you to listen to the episode on San Diego SeaWorld next week, because we talk specifically about that and the fact of how that's really changed at SeaWorld in San Diego. So here in Orlando, they had great exhibits. All their aquariums were very clean. It was just a great experience all the way around. Now, the negatives, I will say there was one negative that we had throughout the day, and that is that park got really hot. And it's due to the amount of massive concrete that is in that park without shade covering. And granted, it's not totally SeaWorld's fault. It's where they're at in Orlando, but they did not build up the shade opportunities that Disney and even Universal has, meaning the large trees around the walkways where it keeps the walkways partially shaded. So with the concrete, it's not shaded, it just bakes. And you can feel the heat radiating up on you all day. And it was very warm that day. It was over 90 degrees. So we were melting all day. And we did say, out of all the parks, that one by far was the hottest. Now, granted, at all the other parks we went to, the temperature was only off by about 2 or 3 degrees. This was the hottest day, so that did play a role. But like I said, that concrete and the lack of shade definitely made it feel very different over at SeaWorld Orlando. So know that it is a little bit of a warmer park. So when you are planning your week that's going to be out there, if you have the opportunity to look at the forecast and then try to plan it for the coolest day, that is something I would do going forward. And that is going to be a great way to avoid the heat over there. The other nice thing about SeaWorld is you don't have to do reservations for days like you do at Disney. So you're able to, if you buy tickets, you can go on Tuesday, Thursday. It doesn't matter. You can go whatever day you decide to go to SeaWorld. So that was really cool. Which now brings me to our I can do this all day tip of the day for SeaWorld in Orlando. And this is actually a really unique tip that we don't give on many other parks. And that is when you are looking to buy passes for you and your family, I want to encourage you, before you click buy, you need to go check out their annual pass. And the reason why is their annual pass gives free passes as well. So for example, if you get the silver pass, you do get a couple free passes during the year, one during the summer, one during the fall, winter months. The gold pass is what I ended up purchasing. You get 4 free passes with 2 during the summer. And keep in mind, there's 3 in our family. So what that means is I paid just a little more than $200 for my pass, but I got 2 free passes I could use immediately, which got my wife and daughter in for free. When we added it up and we did the math on it, it was cheaper to buy the gold pass and to use those 2 free tickets than it was to buy 3 individual tickets. So keep that in mind. And then in addition to that, with the gold pass, we were able to get free preferred parking, which is $50 parking for free. And that got us right in the center lane close to the gates. So you're going to get your parking for free. So if you think about, I'm going to be driving in there, that's going to cost you $30 to $50 depending on which type of parking you do. If you're going to be buying all your tickets, that's going to add up too. In addition to that, you get discounts on all your food and all your merchandise when you have the annual pass. So we were able to save quite a bit of money on our lunch that we got, as well as on those refillable cups and any souvenirs that we wanted to get. So I will say it is worth, do the math for yourself, take 5 minutes, think about how many people are in your party, multiply that times the daily rate, and then figure out how much it costs to get in and add in your parking. Then go over and look at the annual pass side of it. And again, like I said, the gold, you do get 4 free passes a year, but they are broken up when you can use them. You can only use them at certain times of the year. We could only use 2 during the summer. So luckily for us, family 3, that worked. If you have a family of 4 or 5, then you can use your 2 free ones, but then you can also use your gold pass to buy discounted tickets for the other people in your party, which is what we did. So I used my gold pass and I was able to buy 4 additional discounted tickets for the family of 4 that was going with us. So there were 7 of us in total, and it saved us a ton of money using their annual pass. And though you may never go back again, it's definitely worth it to save yourself a couple $100 there, because that's what it amounted out for us. So I do want to encourage you, do the math on it. It is definitely worth it. But with that, we hope you have a magical week as you're planning your next vacation. Like I said today, you're definitely going to want to visit SeaWorld Orlando when you're in the area, especially if you love big coasters or you love marine life. You're definitely going to want to go. I was pleasantly surprised when I went. I had a great time. I loved the roller coasters that were there. But tune in next week as we talk about SeaWorld San Diego, as that is a different story. And then the following week, we'll be talking about Legoland. Okay? Talk to you later. Bye-bye.